a picturesque Austrian resort in the height of the ski season. 4,000 tourists enjoy the beautiful Alpine scenery. Suddenly, a massive avalanche shatters the peace. Within 3 minutes, a 328-foot wall of snow devastates the village of Galtur. It smashes buildings and buries dozens of people. 31 die, all in a village that avalanche experts officially designate as safe. Now, advanced computer simulation reveals exactly what went wrong in Galtur. Disasters don't just happen. They're a chain of critical events. Unravel the fateful moments in those final seconds from disaster. Europe, Austria, Galtur, February 1999. The traditional ski resort of Galtur is a popular winter playground high in the Alps. Steep alpine cliffs surround the village on 3 sides. It lies directly below the Grieskopf mountain, which towers over Galtur at a height of 9,035 feet. But this tranquil beauty comes at a price. In winter, heavy snowfall and high winds batter the village. Galtur lies in the heart of avalanche country. Nevertheless, the steep slopes are a magnet for winter sports enthusiasts. In peak season, Galtur attracts up to 4,000 visitors a week from across Europe, promoting itself as the resort with doorstop skiing. That's why Christa and Helmut Kapellner come here from Düsseldorf, Germany every year.
Galtur is very small, and the ski slopes are right by the village. You hardly need to cover any distance at all to get to the slopes. You can ski right up to your front door.
The easy access to the ski slopes makes Galtur the perfect family resort. 33-year-old British firefighter Jason Tate, his wife and 2 children are staying in a chalet on the eastern edge of Galtur. His brother Jonathan and his family are with them. They've now been in Galtur for 10 days on what is meant to be the dream vacation.
The holiday was a kind of trip for a lifetime, as it were. We'd saved up all the previous year. And it was our first time away skiing with the kids. That's what was important to us.
But their trip of a lifetime is far from ideal. Apart from an unseasonably warm period between January 29th and February 4th, the weather is terrible. By February 17th, the area has endured over 2 weeks of almost continuous snowfall.
And then huge masses of snow started to fall. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
High-altitude weather stations record over 12 feet of snow for the period, 6 times greater than the February average. The snow is not just falling heavily on the village. High above Galtur, snow continues to build up on the Grieskopf mountain at an alarming rate of 6 inches a day.
Cold air is moving towards the Alps, which means continuous snowfall.
Above that, snow and more snow.
The white snowstorm outside doesn't want to stop.
The authorities issue a series of extreme weather warnings, and they shut down the ski slopes. Then, on February 18th, the threat of avalanches forces the authorities to close the only road leading into Galtur. Almost 4,000 people are cut off from the outside world. By February 23rd, Jason Tate and his family are still trapped in Galtur. They should have gone home 3 days ago. Jason is getting desperate.
Every morning we'd go out and clear the cars off and clear the drive because of the continuous snow, just in case we'd get a window of opportunity to get out. Of course, you can imagine the children were getting very bored. It was a case of trying to entertain them the best we could.
The weather continues to deteriorate, and now it's more than just heavy snowfall. Huge winds batter the Cut-Off Valley with recorded speeds in excess of 70 miles an hour. At 7 a.m. on February 23rd, Galtür's mayor calls an urgent meeting of his avalanche emergency team. They believe the risk of an avalanche is now high. Galtür has 3 color-coded avalanche hazard zones. In the high-risk red zone surrounding the village's outskirts, no building is allowed. In the potentially dangerous yellow zone, all houses and hotels are reinforced. The green zone, the heart of the village, is considered safe, a place beyond the reach of any avalanche. The heavy snow continues throughout the day. As more and more snow piles up on the mountains overlooking the village, small avalanches start to appear on the lower slopes. With little to do, Christa and her husband Helmut venture out to the Café Günther. They stay within the safe green zone, but Christa feels anxious.
I did not feel safe at all, and I was afraid to leave the house. You constantly look up to the mountains on your left and right and think, oh my God, I do hope it's safe. So I was really anxious, thinking, I hope we get out of this alive.
On the edge of the village, Jason Tate is increasingly concerned.
With young children and an expectant wife, of course, you do feel quite responsible to look after their welfare and make sure that they were getting what they wanted, because we could see these smaller avalanches coming down.
Galtür is now experiencing its heaviest snowfall since records began 100 years ago. An astonishing 12 inches falls on this one day alone. The freak weather surprises even the locals. Maria Wolf is housekeeper to the village priest. She hasn't seen a winter this bad in her entire life. 3:50 p.m. Christa and Helmut leave the Café Günther and head back to their hotel. It's a 20-minute walk in the thick snow. Jason Tate and his family are in their chalet on the outskirts of Galtür. Maria Wolf is in the laundry room of the priest's house next to the church. She's nearly finished her work, but something feels wrong.
I was just about to go into the chapel to say a rosary, because somehow it seemed as if something was about to happen. I had a feeling that there was something in the air.
Maria is right to feel uneasy. High on the Grieskopf mountain, the snowpack creaks under its enormous weight. It breaks away. A massive avalanche is headed straight for the village. The lives of people in Galtür are about to change forever. Seconds from disaster will continue in a moment. Now back to seconds from disaster. High above the Austrian ski resort of Galtür, a massive overhang of snow buckles under the strain of 3 weeks of almost continuous snowfall. 3:59 p.m., an avalanche breaks off and heads down the mountain. The village of Galtür lies directly in its path. Jason and Jonathan Tate are with their children in the chalet on the outskirts of the village.
All of a sudden, you sort of hear this rumbling, sort of low, very, very low, sort of, as if a train is going past in the distance.
Jonathan pushes the children under a table. terrified that the windows are about to blow in.
It happens so fast that all of a sudden the house just rocks. And then it's like being in a washing machine. The elements just battering the house. And I was just concerned that the windows couldn't sustain that kind of battering.
A wave of snow over 300 feet high crashes through Galtur's outskirts. Here in the outer yellow zone, buildings are made to resist avalanches. The avalanche obliterates many of them in seconds. At 4:50, housekeeper Maria Wolf is about to leave the priest's house when the avalanche surges towards the center of the village.
A flurry of snow, and then I can't remember anything.
3 seconds later, the avalanche thunders down the street as Krista and Helmut Kapellner return to their hotel. Krista feels a huge force hit her in the back. The tremendous power of the avalanche somersaults her 55 yards down the street.
Instinctively, I covered my face with both hands and pitched forward.
4:02 p.m. The avalanche finally stops 109 yards inside the green zone, the safe zone that is the center of Galtur. The deadly wall of snow has devastated this once tranquil village. It has thrown and crushed cars. Snow buries entire streets and destroys houses. No one knows how many people are trapped. Shocked villagers immediately get to work to try to locate survivors. The rescuers have no idea where people are buried. They work in lines, probing the snow with metal rods to help locate hidden bodies. Jason and Jonathan Tate's chalet is at the very edge of the avalanche path. It escapes undamaged. The brothers set out to see if they can help with the rescue effort.
And we kept passing people coming away from where it had been, holding their heads and shaking their heads, whatever. It was quite concerning. We thought, well, you know, what are we walking into here? What faced us was absolutely shocking. Basically, there was just a huge amount of snow where half of the village had previously been.
The whole hotel was at 45 degrees, literally uprooted and turned over. You know, to see a whole building turned over like that is something to behold, the power of nature.
Snow even fills the buildings left standing, burying people inside. Maria Wolf is one of them, trapped under snow in the laundry room. Only the sink saves her from being totally buried. But she's unconscious. She needs help fast. 400 yards away, the full force of the avalanche has blasted German tourist Krista off her feet and along the street. As the avalanche subsides, Krista finds herself trapped in an icy tomb. She was standing next to Helmut when the avalanche struck and is sure he will rescue her. As an experienced skier, Krista knows that her survival depends on being found quickly. A pocket of air is keeping her alive, but for how long?
There was a smell of mold, as if one had been buried alive. That's what it felt like.
Als ob man lebendig begraben ist, so kam ich mir vor.
Maria is luckier. A rescue team finds her in the priest's basement. Walter Kirk, a local doctor, rushes to the scene.
All I knew was that a male voice said, "Stay calm, Maria." And the doctor asked me, "Can you move your feet?" And I said, "Yes, both of them."
Dr. Kirk begins emergency treatment. Maria has fractured ribs and back injuries, but seems numb to the pain.
She did not scream. She did not cry. She was in a state of shock, just like the rest of us.
Darkness falls. The temperature plummets to 15 degrees. And the greater threat is now asphyxiation. For people buried under the snow, the difference between life and death is only a matter of minutes. Seconds from disaster will return in a moment. Now back to seconds from disaster. The village of Galtur is shattered by a massive avalanche. Night falls and rescue teams desperately race against time to pull people out before they asphyxiate under the snow. If the rescuers don't find victims within 40 minutes, it is usually too late. The village mayor is desperate for help. Frantic calls go out to the emergency services in Laundek, the nearest town 25 miles away. But the calls are in vain. Helicopters are ready and waiting, but the snowstorm has cut off the entire valley. The weather grounds the choppers. Galtur is on its own. As the clock ticks away, the victim's survival now relies on the rescue efforts of volunteers. 4:45 p.m., 46 minutes after the start of the avalanche, and for German skier Krista Kapellner, time is running out.
At that point, I felt no fear at all. I was simply hoping and wishing and praying that I would be rescued.
Krista Kapellner knows that the oxygen in her air pocket is getting dangerously low. She realizes she must try to dig herself out. It's an impossible task. She's unaware that a rescue team is close by with a search dog. Heiko is trained in avalanche rescue. His job is to sniff out people buried beneath the snow. Krista begins to lose consciousness as the last of her oxygen is exhausted. Suddenly, Heiko picks up a scent around the bumper of a car, buried in the snow. The team starts to dig frantically, hoping they might find a survivor. It's incredibly difficult. The snow is solidly compacted.
It wasn't the soft kind of snow that you'd expect to go out and play in. It was like concrete. It had set, and it was quite difficult to try and dig through.
The team digs deeper under the upended car. Heiko becomes more and more agitated. 7 p.m. Krista has been buried for 3 hours. The rescuers are 10 feet down when they spot clothing. It's Krista. Barely alive, she has severe hypothermia and needs urgent medical help. Finding Krista gives everyone new hope. The volunteers work through the night in freezing temperatures. But as the hours pass, there is little chance of finding any more buried survivors. The following morning, at dawn, the weather clears. Emergency helicopters from Laundek arrive to start airlifting out the injured. With so much devastation, the authorities decide to evacuate the village. Survivor Krista Kapelna is one of the first to be evacuated. As she recovers in the hospital, her thoughts turn to her missing husband, Helmut.
After a while, it dawned on me what must have happened. I had worked it out for myself by then. If he had not been found yet, he simply could not have survived that cold.
When the rescue team finds Helmut's body, he's just 55 yards from the spot where they rescued Krista. Helmut is one of 31 victims who die in Galtur. Many more are injured. The disaster attracts international attention.
With 60 people killed in a series of avalanches, the latest struck Tuesday in the small town of Galtur.
News crews descend upon the stricken Alpine village. Avalanche expert Art Mears from Colorado flies in by helicopter. With over 25 years' experience, Mears understands all too well the devastation an avalanche can wreak. The destruction in Galtur horrifies even him.
You could still see pieces of people's lives embedded in the debris. Dolls, somebody's hairbrush. This was still visible, slowly melting out of the debris. And of course, there was extensive devastation to the buildings. There were a lot of obvious signs that something large and with a great deal of force and energy had come off the mountainside.
What puzzles Mears and other experts is that the avalanche penetrates the heart of the village, the one part of Galtur everyone thinks is avalanche safe. Yet it's here where the avalanche claims most of its victims. It's clear the computer model dividing Galtur into 3 hazard zones failed. And this same model is used throughout the Alps, leaving thousands of mountain communities and tourists potentially at risk. How could the sophisticated computer model prove so disastrously wrong? Seconds from disaster. We'll be right back. Now back to Seconds from Disaster. February 1999. A massive avalanche slices through the ski resort of Galtur in the Austrian mountains. The center of the village is supposed to be avalanche safe. But within 3 minutes, 31 people are dead and many more injured. What went wrong? By rewinding the events of that fateful day and analyzing in detail the official investigation, we can now reveal what happened at Galtur. Advanced computer simulation will take us where no camera can go, into the heart of the Galtur avalanche. The day after the disaster, the Tyrolean prosecutor appoints Paul Fohn and Stefan Margret as chief investigators. Both men are from the Swiss Federal Institute for Snow and Avalanche. The scale of the destruction shocks Margret.
Galtur gave me the impression of a war zone. There are many helicopters flying around, completely destroyed houses, big heaps of snow where they're still looking for victims and hundreds of damaged cars. It was indeed a terrible sight.
The first step for the investigators is to assess why the avalanche is so destructive. it is clear that Galteur's avalanche hazard zones were dead wrong. Scientists calculated the hazard zones on a worst-case scenario based on studies of 150 years of avalanche activity in the valley. But this avalanche has swept through the high-risk red zone, continued through the medium-risk yellow zone, and penetrated the green zone, the very center of Galteur. The so-called safe zone now resembles a war zone. The investigators must find out what really turned the Galteur avalanche into a lethal monster that surpassed their worst fears. Fawn is determined to find out just how big this avalanche actually was. He starts with the basics. He studies the weather data to check out the snowfall and see if there's anything out of the ordinary.
The usual weather in wintertime, especially in January, is a mix of snowfalls and then nice weather. That was the case this year. We didn't have anything unusual.
But when Fawn checks weather reports for the end of January 1999, he spots something intriguing. On January 26th, low pressure over northern Italy creates 4 days of heavy precipitation in the Alps. At the same time, a high-pressure front of cold air sweeps down from the Arctic. The two weather systems collide, and as the cold front meets the warmer, wetter front, they create snow, huge amounts of snow. Similar weather conditions occur throughout much of February. Fawn calculates that snowfall for the area is an incredible 12.5 feet, 6 times the seasonal average, enough to create a massive avalanche. To find out exactly how large the avalanche is, Fawn and Margaret fly to the very spot where the mass of snow broke away, the summit of the Grieskopf mountain, 3,838 feet above Galteur. Just 2 days after the avalanche, the snow is still extremely unstable. It's a dangerous mission. Fawn measures the size of the fracture zone, the site where the avalanche broke away from the mountain. It's over twice the size he expects. Margaret is so amazed, he takes this photograph. At its widest, the breakpoint is a staggering 15 feet. On this basis, Fawn calculates that the avalanche weighs an incredible 170,000 tons. An avalanche on this slope should weigh no more than 70,000 tons. Fawn realizes that even the most continuous snowfall in the weeks leading up to the disaster can't explain the size of this avalanche. The question is, where has the extra snow come from? The investigators return to the weather records. They learned that between January 27th and February 23rd, strong northwesterly winds pounded the Galteur region. The power of the wind, combined with the orientation of Grieskopf mountain, causes an extra 6.5 feet of snow to collect above the village. But the amount of snow creates yet another puzzle for the investigators. A 170,000-ton snow ridge would not normally be able to support itself. It would break off long before it got this big. So why didn't it?
Usually avalanches release before they get 4.5 meters deep like they were at Galteur. 4.5 meters is 15 feet. And that's a lot of snow.
Every mountain peak has one or more snow caps which form when successive layers of snow fall on top of each other. Some layers are made of snow crystals that are weaker than others. When snow builds on a weak layer, that layer can give way, causing the snow on top to slide off and trigger an avalanche. Big avalanches are rare because the weak layer usually gives way before the layers on top become too thick.
If the layer had been very weak, you would have had smaller avalanches released at several different times instead of a single one building up.
So why didn't the weak layer give way sooner? When Paul Fohn analyzes the weak layer, he hits upon something strange. The ice crystals are much more strongly bonded than in a typical weak layer. Fohn knows such strongly bonded crystals can be formed when snow melts and then refreezes. But how could this have happened high in the Alps in the middle of winter? Fohn rechecks the temperature records, and they confirm his hunch. Temperatures between January 29th and February 4th rose from 4 below zero to 39.2 degrees, warm enough for the snow to melt. But by February 5th, the temperature plummets to 30 degrees, and the snow above Galtur refreezes. It causes the formation of strongly bonded crystals, making this weak layer freakishly strong.
I think the most unusual aspect of the weak layer at Galtur was that it really wasn't that weak.
At 3:59 p.m. on the 23rd of February, 1999, the weak layer finally gives way, releasing 170,000 tons of snow with disastrous consequences. But does this new evidence explain why the avalanche caused most of the destruction in the supposedly safe center of Galtur? The investigation team feeds the new data into a computer simulation of the avalanche. The result is mystifying. The computer predicts that this avalanche would still stop before it reaches the green zone. Yet the destruction in Galtur Center is irrefutable evidence of a huge and devastating avalanche. Fohn knows he must track down a killer no one ever expected, an avalanche with the power to strike at the very heart of Galtur. This time he goes through the eyewitness accounts looking for clues, and an even more complicated picture emerges. One witness recalls seeing the avalanche heading directly towards his house in distinct waves of snow. These waves are characteristic of what scientists call a powder avalanche. Powder avalanches can have a density up to 20 times that of air. They can travel at speeds of up to 259 miles per hour. But as well as the top layer of powder snow, the evidence points to a bottom layer of dense, heavy snow, proof that this was a complex avalanche. This presents a major problem for the scientists. Their hazard zone computer model can only accurately track the path of a classic Alpine avalanche. They simply don't have the data to predict the behavior of the more complex avalanche that struck Galtur. The investigation grinds to a halt. Then their luck turns. They learn of a daring experiment that casts light on the behavior of multi-layered avalanches. Just 2 weeks before the Gautier disaster, a team of Austrian and Swiss scientists set out for Mount Crete-Bessay in Switzerland. They're going to set off an avalanche deliberately and record how it moves down the mountain. 2 Doppler avalanche radars transmit short pulses of microwave energy that will document the avalanche's progress second by second. It's a highly dangerous experiment. The avalanche will be heading straight for them. The team takes cover inside a reinforced concrete bunker 4,265 feet beneath the mountain peak. A helicopter drops explosive charges to trigger the avalanche. The scientists' own film reveals what happens next. An enormous slab of snow breaks away from the mountain and rampages out of control downhill. As the huge wall of snow heads towards them, they quickly shut the hatch, just in time. The avalanche engulfs the bunker. They've had a lucky escape. The experiment is far more dangerous than they dreamed. Their bunker is under several feet of snow, and they're trapped. They have to dig their way out. It's only when they emerge that they realize the full scale of the avalanche they have set off. The experiment is a frightening vision of what the victims of Gautier, with no concrete bunker to protect them, experienced. The avalanche is much larger than they ever expected. Now they need to find out why. They examined the data from the 2 Doppler radars, and with the new information, the scientists can see inside an avalanche in full descent. The bunker experiment reveals that as the avalanche cascades down the side of the mountain, it picks up fresh layers of snow that lie in its path. Scientists call this process entrainment.
A crude way to describe entrainment could be being out on a slope that's all wet and rolling a snowball down the slope, and the snowball gets bigger and bigger as it goes to the bottom of the hill. In other words, the snow that got to the bottom of the steep part of the avalanche path could be 2 or 3 or 4 times as large as the avalanche that began.
The Crete-Bessay experiment astounds the scientists. They now know an avalanche can pick up 400 tons of snow every second of its descent. Could this be a major breakthrough in finding out why the avalanche blasted through Gautier's green zone? The investigation team feed the new data into their computer. They hope that this time it will solve the central mystery of why the avalanche reached the heart of Gautier and killed so many people. With this new information and advanced computer simulation, we can now reveal exactly what happened in Gautier. Count down those final seconds from disaster when we return. January 26, 1999. Heavy snowfall hits the Gautier region for 4 days. From the 29th of January through February 4th, temperatures rise. Snow begins to melt, creating a weak layer on the snowcap above Gautier. February 5th, temperatures suddenly drop, and for the next 19 days, the Austrian Alps get unseasonably high snowfall. Winds in excess of 70 miles per hour help to build a huge snowpack on the mountain above Gautier. February 23rd, the weak layer beneath supports an unusually large burden of snow, but only for so long. 2 minutes to disaster. A giant snow slab estimated to weigh 170,000 tons, the equivalent to 428 fully laden jumbo jets, breaks away from the mountain. Galteur lies directly in its path. "60 seconds to disaster. The avalanche rushes down the mountain. Calculations now show it increases in size by an estimated 20,000 tons. It reaches a top speed of 259 miles per hour. At 4:01, disaster strikes Galteur. The enormous force penetrates the village's 3 zones, including the green safe zone. At 4:02, the avalanche finally runs out of power. Galteur is in ruins, and 56 people are buried under tons of snow and ice. Investigators now know why the monster avalanche decimated Galteur, but they still need to solve one final piece of the puzzle. Why did the worst destruction occur inside the green zone, the place everyone believed was the safest? 4 p.m. The avalanche, weighing 170,000 tons, strikes the outskirts of Galteur. The heavy, dense layer of snow hits buildings with an enormous force, equivalent to a 25-ton truck hitting a brick wall at 50 miles per hour. But the upper, lighter layer of powder snow is traveling at 259 miles per hour and penetrates 109 yards further into Galteur's safe zone. Although it carries less force than the bottom layer, it throws Christa and Helmut Kapellner 55 yards. This powder avalanche blasts through windows and doors, rapidly filling buildings with fine snow. It engulfs the priest's house, where Maria Wolf is working. At 4:01 p.m., powder snow envelops more houses in the safe green zone. Many are lightweight buildings that weren't made to withstand the power of an avalanche. As the enormous pressure builds up inside, whole chalets explode as if detonated by bombs. At 4:02 p.m., the powder snow packs one last killer punch. When it settles, it compacts and sets rock hard.
In situations that I've observed where powder clouds in small to moderate and sometimes large avalanches have been compressed against solid objects like trees, the material from the powder cloud has been compressed to a density so high and a strength so high that you could barely break the surface with a knife blade.
When the powder snow sets, rescue efforts become virtually impossible. Christa's survival is a miracle. An upturned car provided her with a pocket of air that lasts for 3 hours. Her husband Helmut, however, is not so lucky. Years later, Christa Kapellner is still under treatment for spinal injuries, but the trauma of her ordeal and the loss of her husband has left deeper scars.
But life goes on, and I need to look forward and be grateful for the time I spent with my husband.
The Galteur avalanche is over in less than 3 minutes. In that time, it causes the death of 31 people, injures many more, and rips the heart out of this peaceful mountain community. Scientists calculate that the freak combination of circumstances creating such a destructive avalanche is unlikely to be repeated in Galtur for at least 200 years. But the authorities responsible for all Austrian mountain communities are taking no chances. They build huge defenses to protect the village. An avalanche barrier 6 feet thick and a wall 393 yards long and 23 feet high now confronts the Alpine range. And high above the village on the mountain ridge, over 6 miles of fencing prevents the buildup of large slabs of snow. It should stop such enormous avalanches in the future. The hard lessons learned at Galtur create new levels of understanding in the field of avalanche prediction throughout the world. Today, 300 people on average are still killed by avalanches each year. But the tragedy at Galtur helps to ensure that people who live, work, and play in the mountains are now safer than ever before.